If you're over 60, this one everyday habit could silently raise your risk of a deadly stroke. Not while you're running, not while you're driving, but while you're climbing your own stairs at home. No warning, no pain, just one moment you feel steady, and the next, your body gives out, your leg slips, your words are gone, or your brain simply shuts down. As a brain doctor, I've seen far too many older adults suffer life-changing strokes, not because of smoking, poor diet, or lack of exercise, but because of how and when they use their stairs. That's right. Something as normal as walking upstairs, especially at the wrong time or with the wrong habits, can quietly push your brain into danger. Today, I'll walk you through 9 dangerous stair climbing mistakes I've seen firsthand in my patients. Habits that increase your risk of stroke, falls, and blood clots overnight. If you have stairs in your home, this video might just save your life. Stay with me until the end because the most dangerous habit is also the one almost nobody talks about. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. Habit number 1, climbing stairs right before bed. It's a quiet evening. Dinner is done. You've watched a little TV, maybe read a chapter from your favorite book. You're tired, ready to call it a night. So you begin your usual routine, slowly making your way upstairs to bed. You might not think twice about it. After all, you've done it for decades. But what if I told you this seemingly harmless habit, climbing stairs right before bed, could be quietly raising your risk of a stroke while you sleep? As a brain doctor with over 30 years of experience caring for older adults, I've seen this exact pattern repeat itself in the emergency room far too often. A senior who was perfectly fine the night before suddenly wakes up unable to speak, unable to move one side of their body, or worse, doesn't wake up at all. Let me tell you about Mr. Henry Lawson, a 78-year-old retired fire chief from Indiana. Strong, disciplined, and proud. He didn't smoke, stayed active, and always took care of himself. Every evening, like clockwork, he would climb the 14 stairs to his second-floor bedroom after dinner. He believed it was keeping him fit. But one morning, his wife found him slumped on the edge of the bed, his speech slurred, his right hand limp, unable to lift his arm. He had suffered a major ischemic stroke during the night. His scans showed a clot had formed in a narrowed artery leading to the brain. The climb he did each night caused a late spike in blood pressure, combined with vascular stiffness, poor hydration, and the body's natural nighttime blood pressure drop. The stairs were the final stressor. That small exertion before bed may have triggered the clot's formation and movement, and during sleep, when the body's circulation slows, it lodged in the brain. It's a silent risk that many seniors don't see coming. Climbing stairs at night activates your cardiovascular system at the worst possible time, when your heart and vessels are trying to prepare for rest. For aging arteries already hardened by time, this sudden demand can create small tears or turbulence in the vessel walls. And that's exactly where blood clots form. What's more frightening is that most seniors don't feel any symptoms right away. There's no pain, no dizziness, just a little breathlessness maybe. Then they sleep, and sometimes they never wake the same again. Physiologically, here's what happens. Climbing stairs raises systolic blood pressure dramatically. In older adults, arterial stiffness means that blood doesn't flow as smoothly. If you're dehydrated from a light dinner or certain medications, your blood becomes more viscous. This combination creates a perfect storm. where clot formation is easier and overnight circulation slows down enough for it to block a critical artery in the brain. Mr. Lawson had no idea that his nightly climb, what he thought was keeping him healthy, was quietly harming his vascular health. He's now in rehab, working daily to regain his speech and motor skills. He told me through tears, "Doctor, no one ever told me stairs could do this." And that's the truth that keeps me up at night. No one tells our seniors this. We preach exercise, movement, and independence, but we don't tell you how or when it might backfire. So here's what I want you to remember. If your bedroom is upstairs, climb up earlier in the evening, ideally 30 to 60 minutes after your last meal, and before you begin winding down. Avoid stair exertion right before bed, especially if you take heart or blood pressure medications, or suffer from diabetes, sleep apnea, or vascular issues. Never climb stairs late at night on a full stomach while dehydrated or without proper support. You're not just walking, you're demanding more from your heart than it may be ready to give, and your brain is what pays the price. Mr. Lawson thought he was doing everything right. He wasn't being careless, he was being uninformed. That's why I'm here, to tell you the things that labels and commercials won't. Because at this stage of life, even the smallest habits can have life-altering consequences. And if that habit wasn't shocking enough, wait until you hear what happens when you hold your breath while climbing stairs. Something nearly every older adult does without even realizing it. And yes, it could be deadly. Let's talk about that next. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. Habit number 2, holding your breath while climbing. You might not even realize you're doing it. One hand on the stair rail, one foot in front of the other, you start to climb. Your body tenses, your grip tightens, and somewhere between the 4th and 5th step you stop breathing. Not because you want to, not because you're panicked, but because your aging brain and body have developed a silent reflex under stress. You hold your breath to push through the climb. It seems harmless, maybe even helpful, but to your heart, your brain, and your blood vessels, it's like pulling the pin on a grenade. This involuntary act, what doctors call the Valsalva maneuver, can cause sudden spikes in blood pressure, intense pressure in the brain, and a dangerous drop in return blood flow to the heart. For healthy 20-year-olds, that might not matter. But if you're over 65, on heart medication, have high blood pressure, or any kind of vascular disease, this simple habit can become deadly. Let me tell you about Mrs. Carol Mendez, a 76-year-old former school teacher from Kentucky. Widowed, independent, lived in the same 2-story home for 43 years. Every day, she climbed the stairs in the morning and again before bed. But recently, she had started feeling lightheaded by the 8th step. Not dizzy enough to stop, but foggy, as she described it. Her family thought she was just dehydrated or tired. But one Sunday morning, halfway up the stairs, she suddenly collapsed. No warning, no cry for help. Her son found her moments later, unconscious at the bottom. By the time they reached the hospital, she had lost movement on her left side. The CT scan confirmed a stroke. The cause? Her blood pressure had surged dangerously high during the climb. The temporary pressure shift from holding her breath had caused a blood vessel deep in her brain to rupture. It was preventable, but no one ever told her that a simple breath-holding reflex could tear open a vessel in the brain. Here's what most seniors don't know, and no one tells you at the pharmacy. When you hold your breath during exertion, the pressure in your chest increases dramatically. That increased chest pressure reduces blood returning to your heart. causes a momentary spike in blood pressure, sends pressure surging up toward your brain. If your arteries are already stiff, narrowed, or weakened, which is common in older adults, this sudden pressure can do serious damage. It can rupture delicate vessels, or in some cases, encourage the formation of blood clots that dislodge and travel to the brain, leading to a stroke or transient ischemic attack, mini stroke. And here's the worst part: this often happens without any pain or warning. No dramatic signs, just a little pressure, a little breath holding, a little effort, and then the silence that follows when something goes wrong. Mrs. Mendez survived her stroke. She's now relearning how to speak with a physical therapist by her side every morning. She told me, Doctor, I had no idea my own breath could turn against me. That stayed with me because it's not her fault. She didn't climb the stairs dangerously. She didn't run. She didn't ignore medical advice. She just wasn't told that in her age group, breath becomes pressure and pressure becomes risk. So if you take anything from this, please let it be this: don't hold your breath when you climb, ever. Breathe out as you move upward. Take slow, steady breaths, even if you have to stop every few steps to do it. Use the railing. Let your breathing guide your pace, not your pride. You're not taking longer. You're saving your brain. And if you've ever felt lightheaded, tight in the chest, or unusually winded on the stairs, don't ignore it. That's your body whispering before it screams. Now, if you think that was surprising, you're not alone. But what's even more dangerous is what happens when you refuse to use the railing altogether, a habit that many seniors see as a sign of strength. But in truth, may be the reason they lose their independence for good. Let me show you why next. Habit number 3, using stairs without a cane or rail. There's a moment that happens in many older adults' lives. A quiet, stubborn decision. I don't need the cane today. Or, I'll skip the railing. I've got this. For some, it comes from pride. For others, from fear of looking weak. But what they don't realize is this: the very thing they're avoiding, support, may be the only thing standing between them and a stroke that changes everything. As a brain doctor, I've seen this story too many times. Seniors who fall, hit their head, or worse, trigger a cascade of internal events that ends in a brain bleed, a clot, or a loss of independence they never recover from. Let me tell you about Mr. Thomas Riley, 81, a retired Navy mechanic from Pennsylvania. Sharp-minded, still drove to church every Sunday. His daughter had bought him a custom cane with an engraved wooden handle, but he rarely used it. Makes me feel old, he said. One evening, while heading up to his second-floor bedroom, he skipped the handrail, both hands full, carrying a sweater and his evening tea. On the third step from the top, his left foot missed. No loud sound, no dramatic fall, just a twist, a stumble, and his shoulder hit the wall. He thought he was fine, a little shaken, a small bruise. He didn't even tell his daughter that night, but by morning, he couldn't lift his right hand. His speech came out garbled. He collapsed again, this time onto the carpet. A scan later revealed the truth: a thrombotic stroke caused by a clot that had formed after the fall. The blood vessel near his neck had been stretched during the misstep, a type of injury we call carotid dissection. That tiny tear had become a site where the body formed a clot which traveled to his brain during the night. That's the terrifying part. Sometimes it's not the fall that hurts you, it's what the fall sets in motion. It forms blood clots. And once they start traveling, they don't ask for permission. They don't wait. They block blood flow in the brain, and in just minutes, oxygen is lost, brain cells die, and the future changes. Here's what makes this so dangerous for seniors. As we age, balance reflexes slow and joint stiffness increases. Many older adults suffer from mild peripheral neuropathy, meaning they don't fully feel the position of their feet on each step. Combined with reduced grip strength and sometimes undiagnosed atrial fibrillation or high blood pressure, a fall or near fall becomes more than just a bruise. It becomes a trigger for stroke. Mr. Riley told me from his hospital bed, "I didn't want to look weak in front of my grandson. I thought if I showed him I was steady, he'd be proud of me." That broke my heart. Because what he didn't know, and what so many of our seniors don't, is that using support is not weakness, it's wisdom. The handrail is not a crutch, it's a lifeline. The cane is not surrender, it's a shield. In fact, research shows that using a handrail or cane reduces fall related strokes by over 40 in adults over 70. And yet, it's one of the most commonly ignored habits I see in my practice, especially among proud, independent seniors who just want to hold on to their dignity. But let me say this clearly: there's no dignity in hiding a stroke from your family. There's no pride in learning to walk again when it could have been prevented. If you've ever skipped the rail, rushed up without your cane, or told yourself just this once, let Mr. Riley's story stay with you. He's alive today, but he can no longer button his shirts without help. His grandson now wheels him to appointments. He told me recently, "I wish I had held the rail just once, just once." That once could have saved him a year of therapy. So next time you walk the stairs, take the rail. If your doctor gave you a cane, use it, especially when you're tired, distracted, or carrying something. You're not giving up control. You're protecting your brain, your independence, and your life. And if you think falling is the only danger lurking in the staircase, you'll want to hear what happens when seniors climb stairs too quickly right after waking up in the morning, at the exact moment when their brain is most vulnerable to a deadly surge. Let me show you what can happen next. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. Habit number 4, climbing stairs too fast in the morning. Mornings should feel like a fresh start. The sun rising, the quiet of the house, maybe the smell of coffee brewing. But for older adults, what you do in the first 10 minutes after waking can decide whether your day begins or whether it ends in an ambulance. And one of the most dangerous things I see in my patients, something they almost never question, is climbing the stairs too quickly, too early, right after getting out of bed. You might think it's just part of my routine. But inside your body, the biology of aging is telling a very different story. You see, when you first wake up, especially after age 65, your body is in a vulnerable state. While you sleep, your blood vessels constrict, your heart rate slows, and your brain is in a low oxygen recovery mode. This is all perfectly normal until you suddenly stand up, rush into motion, and ask your cardiovascular system to go from 0 to 60 without warning. That's when strokes happen. That's when clots move. That's when lives change. Let me tell you about Mrs. Ethel Graham, a 79-year-old retired florist from Georgia. She was sharp, witty, and lived alone in the home she and her late husband had built together. Her bedroom was on the first floor, but every morning, she climbed the steep back staircase to check on her upstairs plants. It made her feel strong, capable, independent. But one morning, just minutes after waking, she rushed up those stairs like usual. She didn't eat, didn't drink water, hadn't even fully stretched. At the top landing, she felt her legs tremble. Then, a wave of heat in her face. And then, darkness. Her neighbor found her after she missed their morning call. By the time I saw her in the ER, she was awake but confused. Her words were tangled. Her right hand couldn't hold a cup. a stroke, what we call a morning surge ischemic stroke, driven by a rapid rise in blood pressure, dehydration, and the force of early exertion. She had no history of stroke. She took her medications on time. But here's what happened in her body. When she woke up, her blood pressure was already rising, a natural phenomenon known as the morning surge. In older adults, this can raise systolic pressure by as much as 50 points within the first hour. Add to that overnight dehydration and the sudden demand of fast stair climbing, and you have a storm brewing. The quick movement pushed her heart rate up sharply, forced her stiff arteries to stretch, and created internal turbulence, just enough to dislodge a clot that had likely been sitting quietly in her carotid artery for months. That clot moved, lodged in a branch of her brain's middle cerebral artery, and blocked oxygen flow. In just minutes, brain tissue began to die. And it all started with a staircase and a habit she thought was harmless. What most seniors don't realize is that the first 30 minutes of the morning are sacred territory. Your brain is re-engaging, your blood vessels are waking up, and if you push too hard too soon, especially if you're on medications for blood pressure, cholesterol, or have any form of vascular disease, you're gambling with your most vital organ. Mrs. Graham survived. Her stroke was moderate, but she now walks with a cane, and her once beautiful handwriting is gone. The hardest part? She told me, "Doctor, I thought I was doing something good for my body. I didn't know I was asking too much from it." And that's exactly the message I need every older adult in America to hear. You are not 40 anymore, and that's okay. But your body needs more time to adjust. Stand up slowly. Sit for a few moments. Drink water. Let your system stabilize before you start moving. And when it comes to stairs in the morning, take your time, like your life depends on it. Because it does. If your heart races, if your vision blurs, if you feel unsteady, do not power through it. That's not strength. That's a warning. Now, if you think mornings are risky, just wait until we talk about what happens when you climb stairs with numb feet, neuropathy, or poor sensation, because what you can't feel might be the most dangerous thing of all. Let me show you why next. Habit number 5, climbing stairs with numb feet or neuropathy. Sometimes the danger isn't what you feel, it's what you can't feel. You place your foot on a step thinking it's stable, but your toes don't fully sense the edge, your heel is slightly off balance. And before your brain has time to react, your body's already shifted, your weight's moved, and a single misstep turns into a catastrophic fall, or worse, a stroke that strikes in silence. As a neurologist, I see this all the time. Seniors living with neuropathy, especially those with diabetes, prior injuries, or vitamin deficiencies, climb stairs without realizing their lower nerves are no longer communicating the way they used to. The brain isn't getting the signals in time, and what looks like a simple staircase becomes a neurological minefield. Let me tell you about Mr. Stanley Green, a 75-year-old retired lineman from Ohio. He was tough, independent, and used to working with his hands. But in recent years, he'd developed numbness in his feet. At first, he brushed it off, blamed it on age or shoes that didn't fit right. His doctor warned him it might be diabetic neuropathy, but Stanley didn't want to feel like a patient. He refused to use a cane, still took the basement stairs every morning to feed his cat. One morning, his foot missed the step, just slightly. But because he couldn't feel it, he didn't correct it. He fell sideways, struck his right shoulder on the railing, and rolled backward. He didn't lose consciousness and insisted to his daughter over the phone that he was fine. But by that night, his speech slurred, his right arm wouldn't lift. He was confused, angry, disoriented. By the time I examined him, we knew the truth. A clot had formed in the carotid artery, likely due to the trauma and inflammation from the fall. That clot traveled upward and lodged in a branch of the left middle cerebral artery, starving a region of his brain from oxygen. It formed a blood clot. It waited, and it struck. He had what we call a delayed onset embolic stroke, triggered by a fall related to neuropathy and loss of foot sensation. The fall wasn't just physical, it set off an internal chain reaction, the kind that doesn't announce itself until hours later when it's already too late to reverse the damage. This is what neuropathy does. It dulls the very signals your brain relies on for balance, reaction, and correction. It fools you into thinking your footing is solid when it's not. And it makes your body vulnerable in the most subtle, unforgiving ways. Most people assume if they're not in pain, they're okay. But numbness is not safety. In fact, it's often more dangerous because you don't see the fall coming. You don't brace, you don't reach. And sometimes you hit the ground in just the right way to set off a clot, a brain bleed, or a trauma-triggered stroke. Mr. Green told me in rehab, I thought I had to act tough. That's how I was raised. But no one told me the numbness was this serious. So here's what I need you to hear clearly. If you have numbness, tingling, or weakness in your feet, do not climb stairs alone. Always use the rail. Wear shoes with a solid grip. Take each step slowly, one at a time. Better yet, talk to your doctor about whether you should be using a walker or cane. And get a proper neuropathy assessment, because climbing stairs with numb feet is like driving a car with the brakes disconnected. You can't stop when you need to. And by the time your brain catches up, the damage is already done. We were able to save Mr. Green's life, but he lost full use of his right hand. He can no longer button his shirt or write notes to his grandchildren. And all of it began with a staircase, a cat, and a foot that didn't feel the edge. If you're feeling numbness or pins and needles in your feet, that's not something to ignore. That's your nervous system waving a red flag. But even if you feel fine, there's a hidden risk that could strike when you least expect it. Because what if the stairs aren't the problem at all, but the things you drink before using them? Next, I'll show you how caffeine, heart meds, and even so-called safe supplements could turn a routine climb into a sudden, deadly surge of blood pressure. You're going to want to hear this one. Habit number 6, climbing stairs after caffeine or medications. It's something most seniors do every day without a second thought. A hot cup of coffee after breakfast, maybe a blood pressure pill or heart medication with a sip of water. Then up the stairs to get dressed, feed the cat, or straighten the bed. It feels like routine. It feels safe. But what I'm about to tell you may change how you look at that habit forever. Because for people over 65, climbing stairs right after consuming caffeine or certain medications can create a dangerous spike in blood pressure, the kind that sends your heart racing, your vessels tightening, and in some cases forms a clot that quietly waits until it's too late to undo the damage. Let me explain. When you consume caffeine, even a modest cup of coffee or tea, your body reacts by releasing adrenaline, the same hormone your body produces during stress or fear. This increases your heart rate, constricts blood vessels, and temporarily raises your blood pressure. Now, if you're in your 30s or 40s, your arteries can stretch and accommodate those changes. But for older adults, especially those with stiffened arteries, heart disease, or on medications that alter cardiovascular function, this sudden shift can be catastrophic. Now, layer on top of that the effect of certain medications like decongestants, often found in cold or allergy pills, diuretics, which dehydrate you, beta blockers, which blunt your heart's normal responses, or even energy supplements with hidden stimulants. When you add stair climbing to that mix, which is one of the most demanding activities for your heart in a short period of time, You create what I call a silent storm inside the body. Let me tell you about Mrs. Hilda Raymond, a 74-year-old widow from Illinois. She'd been dealing with occasional fatigue and was trying a natural supplement advertised to support energy and brain clarity. She took it after her morning coffee, then climbed the stairs to grab her reading glasses from the bedroom. Halfway up, she felt flushed, lightheaded, and short of breath. She sat on the top step hoping it would pass, but it didn't. Her daughter found her minutes later, slumped over and struggling to speak. She was having a stroke. When we ran her labs, her blood pressure had spiked to 210, 110. Imaging revealed a clot lodged in her left temporal artery, which had reduced oxygen to the key language center of her brain. The stroke hadn't been caused by clogged arteries alone. The combination of caffeine, the stimulant in the supplement, and physical exertion from stair climbing had caused a massive constriction of her vessels, followed by an internal surge that likely shook loose a clot that had been sitting quietly for months. It formed a blood clot, and the stimulant-induced pressure surge had helped push it exactly where it could do the most damage. This is what we're not telling our seniors, that even safe-seeming combinations like caffeine and a vitamin or a heart pill and a staircase can become deadly when your vascular system isn't as forgiving as it used to be. Mrs. Raymond survived, but her speech is still impaired. She struggles with word finding and fatigue. She told me through tears, "Doctor, I thought I was doing something good for myself. I didn't know I was setting myself up." So here's my plea to every older adult. Don't rush into activity right after coffee, tea, or medication. Wait 30 minutes after consuming any stimulant or cardiovascular medication before attempting stairs or other physical tasks. Drink water. Sit upright. Let your body adjust. Check labels. Even natural supplements can contain stimulants that raise heart rate and blood pressure. Most of all, listen to your body. If you feel flushed, dizzy, or off, stop. Rest. Because your next step could be the one that shifts a clot, constricts a vessel, or triggers the kind of stroke that changes your life in an instant. And if you think caffeine is the only hidden danger, think again. Because the next habit is one so common, so innocent looking, that most seniors never even realize it's risky until they're halfway up the stairs in total darkness and their body fails them. Let's talk about what happens when you climb stairs at night, in the dark, when your brain and balance are most vulnerable. Habit number 7, waking at night and climbing stairs in the dark. There's something about the quiet of the night that feels safe, peaceful. You wake up around 2 or 3 a.m., maybe to use the bathroom, grab a glass of water, or check on something upstairs. The lights are off, the house is still, and you tell yourself, I know these steps. I've walked them for 40 years. So you go. You don't turn on the hallway light. You don't take your cane. You don't think twice. And that one decision, made in silence and routine, may be the one that changes your life forever. As a neurologist, I've had too many patients who never knew how dangerous the stairs could be at night, especially in the dark, and especially for people over 65. You see, as we age, our brain's balance center, the vestibular system, becomes more fragile. Our reaction time slows, our night vision declines, and our postural control, the ability to keep yourself steady when you're off balance, weakens quietly with every passing year. Add to that low blood pressure from lying down, dehydration, and poor lighting, and suddenly, a midnight stair climb becomes a perfect storm. Let me tell you about Mrs. Clara Watkins, age 82, a retired nurse from New Hampshire. Independent, witty, and proud to still live alone in the home where she raised her 3 sons. She had a nightly ritual. She'd wake around 3 o'clock a.m. and go upstairs to check the thermostat and open the guest room window. She never turned the light on, said it hurt her eyes. I know my way in the dark, she told me. until one night her foot missed the third step. She didn't fall hard. She caught herself, but just enough weight shifted that her body twisted. She sat down on the step and felt dizzy. Her heart was racing. She went back to bed, thinking it was nothing. By morning, she couldn't move her left hand. Her face drooped slightly. She slurred her words. It was a stroke. The scan showed a clot in the right side of her brain. A small embolism lodged in the parietal branch of the cerebral artery. What likely happened was this. The sudden movement in darkness, combined with her dehydrated state and her natural early morning blood pressure dip, caused a brief spike in blood pressure as she tried to stabilize herself. In that moment, a pre-existing clot dislodged, likely from a stiff carotid artery, and traveled to her brain. It formed a blood clot. It waited. And it moved during a moment of darkness when she couldn't see, couldn't react, and couldn't protect herself. This is the reality for so many older adults. The risks are invisible. Poor lighting that makes stairs appear flat, orthostatic hypotension when blood pressure drops upon standing, medications that increase nighttime disorientation or make you drowsy, and no rail or support because you think you'll be just a minute. But 1 minute is all it takes. One misstep, one imbalance, one moment of not seeing clearly, and the damage is done. Mrs. Watkins now uses a walker. She still lives at home, but only because her sons installed motion sensor lights, railings, and a stair lift. She told me something I'll never forget. "Doctor, I always thought dying in your sleep was the scariest thing. I didn't realize it was walking half awake that nearly took me. So please, if you wake up during the night, turn on the lights. Use a motion-activated night light in your hallway and stairwell. Keep water by your bedside so you're not dehydrated. Sit on the bed for a moment before standing. And if your stairs are steep or poorly lit, talk to your family about other options, because this isn't about fear, it's about staying alive. You are not being overcautious. You are being wise because your brain doesn't care how familiar your staircase is. If you miss one step in the dark, it only takes a second to change the course of your life. And speaking of seconds, what if I told you that suddenly deciding to climb stairs after being inactive for days or weeks could be even more dangerous? That there's a hidden risk that builds quietly when we sit too long, and when we finally move again, that very movement may trigger the stroke we were trying to avoid? You need to hear this next. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 7. Habit number 8, skipping stairs for days, then overdoing it. Suddenly. We've all had those stretches. A few days when we're feeling tired. Maybe the weather is bad. Maybe the knees ache. Maybe it's just easier to stay on the main floor, avoid the stairs, and take it slow. And there's nothing wrong with rest. In fact, for older adults, pacing ourselves is part of living wisely. But what many seniors don't realize is that when you suddenly go from days of inactivity to rushing up a flight of stairs, your body may not be ready for that demand, and the result can be devastating. Because during those inactive days while you're sitting, your blood is slowing. Your leg muscles, the ones that help pump blood back to your heart, are at rest. Your arteries stiffen even more. Your blood pressure may seem normal, but the circulation isn't as smooth as it should be. And inside your vessels, where things are moving slower than usual, the blood starts to pool, particularly in the lower body. That's exactly how blood clots form. And when you suddenly stand up and exert yourself, especially on stairs which demand a burst of cardiovascular effort, those clots can break loose. They don't ask questions. They move. And the next thing you know, they're in your brain. That's exactly what happened to Mr. Daniel Mercer, age 80, a retired school bus driver from Colorado. He had been feeling under the weather, A mild cold, nothing serious. He stayed downstairs for nearly a week, watching TV, reading, and mostly resting. But one afternoon, after starting to feel better, he decided to go upstairs and reorganize the bedroom closet. He hadn't climbed those stairs in 6 days. He made it about halfway up before he started feeling a sharp pressure in his head. Not a migraine, not a faint, something different. By the time he reached the top landing, his right leg buckled. He fell against the railing and slumped to the floor. His wife found him moments later. He was awake, but confused and unable to speak. He had suffered an embolic stroke, a blood clot that had traveled from a deep vein in his leg, passed through his circulatory system, and lodged in his brain's language center. We later confirmed that the clot had likely formed during those days of rest. It had been sitting, silently, waiting. And the first real physical exertion, the stairs, was the trigger. Mr. Mercer told me in rehab, "I didn't think I had to warm up just to walk upstairs. I thought I was better. I didn't know I could have a stroke from just trying to get back to normal." And that's what makes this habit so dangerous. It doesn't feel wrong. In fact, it feels like recovery. But the older we get, the more carefully we have to re-enter activity, especially after several days of low movement. The cardiovascular system needs time to adjust. The blood needs help getting flowing again. The muscles that protect us, the calves, thighs, and glutes, need reactivation. If you go from 0 to 100 in a single stair climb, the body can't adapt fast enough. And that's when something gives. And often, what gives is a vessel in the brain. So here's what I tell every patient who's been less active, whether it's due to illness, travel, or just a few days of rest. Start slow. Stretch your legs first. Drink water to rehydrate your system. Walk on flat ground for a few minutes before attempting stairs. If you feel even slightly dizzy, winded, or off balance, stop. That's not a sign of weakness. It's your body trying to warn you. Mr. Mercer is improving. He's speaking again, slowly, and doing daily physical therapy. But it was all preventable. One warm-up, one delay, one sip of water. That might have saved his brain. And if you've ever taken a few days off and thought, "I need to catch up, push myself," please remember this. The stairs will always be there. Your health might not be. But if you think overexertion is bad, just wait until you learn what happens when you climb stairs after a heavy meal, when your blood is rushing to your stomach and your brain is suddenly left behind. The most dangerous timing of all might be just after dinner. Let me show you why next. Habit number 9, climbing stairs after a heavy meal. There's something comforting about routine, finishing a warm dinner, washing the dishes, and heading upstairs to wind down for the night. For many older adults, this rhythm has been the same for decades. But what if I told you that climbing stairs right after a heavy meal, especially in the evening, might be one of the most dangerous things you do all day? Not because of your joints, not because of your muscles, but because of your blood flow and how your aging body prioritizes where that blood goes. Let me explain. After you eat, particularly a heavy meal rich in fats, salt, or carbohydrates, your body begins a process called postprandial redistribution. That means your blood is being redirected away from your brain, heart, and muscles, and toward your digestive system. It's a natural process. But in seniors, this shift can become a hidden threat. As you digest, your brain is temporarily receiving less oxygen-rich blood. Your arteries, already narrowed or stiffened with age, struggle to compensate. And if during this delicate window you suddenly climb a flight of stairs, your body is forced to divert blood to your legs and heart while it's still feeding your gut. The result? Your brain is left behind. Let me tell you about Mr. Albert Jennings, 83 years old, a retired hardware store owner from Minnesota. He and his wife had just finished dinner: roast beef, mashed potatoes, a glass of wine. He felt full, tired, but remembered he had left the upstairs window open. Wanting to be helpful, he stood up and walked straight to the staircase. He made it halfway before he felt something strange, a sensation like spinning, but without movement. His legs went weak. His hand missed the rail. By the time his wife heard the thud, he was on the floor, conscious, but unable to speak. We ran the scans immediately. Mr. Jennings had suffered a left-side embolic stroke. A clot had traveled from the carotid artery into the speech center of his brain. His cholesterol was mildly elevated. But what triggered the stroke wasn't a chronic condition, it was timing. He had eaten a heavy sodium-rich meal. His blood was thick, digestion had begun, and in the moment his muscles needed more blood for the stairs, his brain couldn't keep up. It formed a blood clot. It moved when his body was least prepared to handle the shift. This is why I caution every senior I see, never climb stairs within 30 to 45 minutes of a heavy meal, especially at night when your body is already preparing for rest and your blood pressure naturally begins to drop. The mismatch in demand can cause sudden spikes or drops in blood pressure, dizziness or fainting, cognitive confusion, and in the worst case, a stroke caused by either vessel constriction or clot migration. The scariest part? It doesn't feel dangerous. You don't feel the blood shift. You just feel a little tired or a little full. And then, just like Mr. Jennings, you take one well-meaning trip upstairs, and everything changes. He's now in speech therapy, slowly regaining his ability to form full sentences. His wife told me, "We just finished dinner. He was fine, and in a few seconds he was gone from me." So I'm telling you now, clearly and with love. Sit after meals. Don't rush. Let your body digest. Let your brain catch up. That task upstairs, the laundry, the light, the window, it can wait. Your brain can't. And if you're someone who takes heart medication, blood thinners, or suffers from blood sugar issues, you're at even greater risk because your circulation is already more fragile. Now, I know these 9 habits may sound frightening and may be overwhelming, but knowledge is power, and fear, when paired with wisdom, becomes prevention. So now that we've uncovered the hidden dangers, what should older adults actually do instead? What steps can you take today to protect your brain, your balance, and your independence? Let me show you what a safer, smarter routine really looks like. You might be surprised how small changes can save a life, maybe even your own. Habit number 10. What should older adults do instead? After hearing about the hidden dangers of stair climbing, the silent risks that can cause strokes, falls, or worse, many older adults are left asking the same question. So what should I do instead? That's the right question, because knowledge alone doesn't change outcomes. Action does. And here's the truth I've learned after over 3 decades of treating stroke survivors. It's not about avoiding stairs forever. It's about changing the way you move, and more importantly, when and how you move, so your body isn't ambushed by a sudden demand it's no longer prepared to meet. Let me tell you about Mrs. Violet Harris, 77 years old, a retired music teacher from Oregon. She came to me after her husband suffered a stroke climbing the stairs in the early morning. She was terrified. She said, "Doctor, I'm scared to even walk into the hallway now." We sat together and looked at her daily habits. No drastic changes, no surgery, just strategy. And over time, she reclaimed not just her confidence, but her health. So, what did she do differently? And more importantly, what should you do? First, timing matters. Never climb stairs immediately after waking, eating, or taking stimulant medications. Give your body time to stabilize. Sit at the edge of the bed, stretch your legs, hydrate, Let your brain and blood pressure adjust to upright movement. Second, support is strength. Always use the railing. If your doctor has recommended a cane or walker, use it. This isn't surrender, this is self preservation. One missed step can cost you your ability to speak, walk, or live independently. And no pride is worth that. Third, light is life. Install motion activated lights in stairwells and hallways. Replace dim bulbs. Keep a flashlight nearby. Your balance, reflexes, and night vision are not what they used to be. And that's not failure, it's biology. Fourth, go slow. One step at a time. Breathe. Never rush upstairs in frustration, anger, or panic. Never carry heavy loads that block your vision or prevent you from gripping the rail. And if you're out of breath halfway up, stop. Rest. You are not being lazy, you are being wise. Fifth, keep moving every day. Don't let your muscles or circulation go dormant. If you avoid stairs for days or weeks, reintroduce movement gradually. Walk around the house, march in place, gentle stretching. Movement isn't just about staying fit. It prevents the very clots that lead to devastating strokes. Because remember, it forms blood clots. When we sit too long, when we don't hydrate, when we shock the system suddenly. Sixth, focus on prevention through real food. Eat light in the evening. Avoid high sodium, high fat meals that slow circulation. Choose heart healthy, brain nourishing foods like salmon, leafy greens, and berries. And always drink water before any activity. Seventh, listen to your body. If something feels off, it probably is. Dizziness, numbness, shortness of breath, or unsteadiness. These are not signs to push through. These are your body's warning bells. Don't wait for the scream. Respond to the whisper. And finally, speak up. Talk to your doctor about your risks. Ask whether medications you're taking might raise your risk of stroke or impair balance. Advocate for yourself. Your safety doesn't come from being silent. It comes from being aware. Mrs. Harris didn't avoid her stairs forever, but now she climbs them in the daylight, after her coffee settles, with the rail in one hand and a bottle of water in the other. She told me, "I used to think a stroke came from bad luck. Now I know. It often comes from bad timing." And that's exactly what I hope you take with you today, because this isn't about fear, it's about control. And while you can't control everything in aging, you can control how you move. You can control how you prepare. And that might be the difference between one safe step and a step that changes everything. But before we close, let me bring everything together. Because now that you've seen all 10 habits, from breath holding to late night stair climbs to overexertion after rest, it's time to ask the most important question of all. What does this mean for your future? And how can you take back control starting today? Let's pull it all together one final time. Final wake-up call. Every step matters more than you think. By now you've seen the truth. Something as ordinary as climbing the stairs, something you've done your whole life, can quietly become one of the greatest risks to your health if you're over 60. Not because stairs are evil, but because the aging body changes and the rules of movement change with it. You've learned about the hidden dangers: climbing too fast after waking, holding your breath without realizing, skipping the rail to feel strong, overdoing it after rest, climbing in the dark, after a big meal, or while numb from neuropathy. Each of these habits may seem small, but together they create a pattern that leaves the aging brain vulnerable to its deadliest enemy: stroke. Stroke doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it builds over years of small missteps. Sometimes it starts with a clot forming during a nap, or a fall on a quiet stairway no one hears. And often, by the time the warning signs come, it's already too late to take them back. But here's the good news. And I say this not only as a doctor, but as someone who's looked into the eyes of hundreds of stroke survivors and their families. You have more power than you think. You can change how you climb. You can hydrate before you move. You can sit up slowly. You can hold the railing without shame. You can listen to the signs your body whispers before it screams. And in doing so, you don't just avoid injury. You protect your brain. You protect your speech, your memory, your independence, the ability to write your name, tell your stories, hug your grandchildren, and live in the home you love. I've seen patients who did too little too late. I've also seen patients like Mrs. Harris, Mr. Mercer, Mrs. Watkins, who made small, steady changes and reclaimed their strength one safe step at a time. You don't need to fear stairs, but you do need to respect them. Because after age 60, every decision you make about movement carries more weight, and every step you take or don't take becomes a message to your brain. Are you protecting me, or are you putting me at risk? So as you go forward, I hope you carry these stories with you, not as fear, but as guidance. Because this isn't about paranoia. It's about power. And no matter your age, it's never too late to move smarter, move slower, and move safer. Your brain is still listening. Let's give it every chance to keep you standing tall. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.